When I did music, when I first started to say, man, this is what I'm gonna do, my cousin died of a drug overdose, like a heroin overdose, and that I didn't, man, I was selling dope, I was doing dumb when he passed away, and then that's when I was like, man, I can't live like this. That's what he's being remembered for, is dying of a drug overdose. I don't want to be that person.
Hunger for what?
Hunger for more.
Welcome back to another episode of the Hunger for More podcast. I'm Ricky Ortiz. I have a special guest with me today. His name is Question. Man, I really don't know what to label you. There's so many things. I mean,
Man, I don't know what to label me either.
I feel like you ain't a rapper no more. That's long gone, right? So, like,
I mean,
what's your title?
I don't ever want to say I'm not a rapper because I keep telling people that I'm gonna rap again, but I probably won't.
Well, you are at heart. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm always gonna love that part of it, but I'd say I'm past that stage of my life.
For sure.
Yeah. Curator is probably the best way to describe me. I try to curate experiences, and I do marketing for a ton of athletes and brands. And,
marketing guru for sure. I say curator definitely.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, man. And I like to think of myself, when people ask me what I really am, I'm just a teacher, man. I try to teach and also learn. I'm also a student, so I'm always trying to learn something from somebody, and at the same time, I'm always trying to instill some wisdom in people and things that I've learned, just life experience, and try to be that to people, because I always had people that were resources like that for me. So it's just my way of giving back, because I don't have anything else to give other than
You got tons, man.
some BS that may or may not help somebody. But that's what I pride myself in, is being able to just be a guide.
Obviously, I mean, you're a huge inspiration to a lot of the city in San Antonio, right? I mean, music to entertainment in general, right? With Davies and everything that you were doing, even previous to that, it's like you were always even molding and managing artists as well.
Correct.
Now into like sports, right? I mean, that's the new lane.
Sports is the new, and content too. Just overall content and creative work. Like I got a TV show that so obviously at Davies I did the television show that they had Built for Business. I was one of the producers on that. Kind of guided that and helped produce that. I have something in the works that I can't all the way talk about, but it's pretty big, and I'm doing some stuff with some major networks. So producing television, and I say television, but that's such a kind of a weird word to use now, but content that could live either online in the digital space or even with a streamer or possibly traditional cable television, though I doubt that's where it goes. But yeah, I produce a little bit of that. I'm involved with sports marketing. I work with a lot of brands. I still dibble and dabble in some music stuff, kind of guiding some artists. I wouldn't say I'm a manager anymore, but definitely consult some music guys. And then I work with some brands and actually some universities. I'm doing a bunch of stuff with universities that has kind of like bringing sports and music together. So I'm part of all that, man, and like just a little bit of everything. Like you said, I have ADHD, so I'm always trying to stick my hands in things. And that's probably why I haven't had like perennial success, is because I can't really decide where I want to go, because I get,
like, if you stick with that one thing long enough, you get bored. I get the same problem, man.
I get bored. So it's kind of like watching you, and the same thing you've done. I've watched you build these businesses, these things that are like staples of the community, and that's part of, like, we talk about, marketing. Marketing starts. A lot of people they look past it. It's like, here's a product, I'm trying to sell it, but it's really not. You're selling the community or the tribe, or it's really about the person. Like,
Absolutely.
what does this mean to you? And so, like, when you started El Camino, I remember you telling me about it when it was, I think it was like 88 Socials, what you were going to call it, or something like that.
Yeah, it was the beginning.
And it was it was right when after your brother had passed away. And, I saw you really kind of, and I don't know the story, but for me on the outside looking in, is I think you took a lot of things with dealing with the passing of your brother, and you looked motivated more than I'd seen you when you were in the strip clubs and working and doing all the things and film and video, and it was dope. But I saw a different person, like a person who was motivated by something, and you really did build a community. Like, El Camino is a community. Like, when people go there, it's an experience. It's not just like, oh, this is a cool place to drink. Like, when you go there is a bond between the people, and they're all different walks of life and all kinds of different people. But every time I go there, I have a great experience, because it's communal. Like, you're sitting outside and you're sharing a drink, and you're going to the different food trucks, and I run into people that I haven't seen in a long time from the space, and there's bonding going on there. So when I watch you build these things, it's at the core of what marketing really is. Marketing is about the person. What are you telling? What are you going to get from this? Because at the end of the day, I don't care what anybody thinks. Like, we all have our motives for why we do things, and that's how you market to people. You almost prey on what those motives are. Like, I'm obsessed with this. I want to do this. I want to do that. So it's the same thing, and it's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with sports branding, sports marketing. It's all the same. It's really about telling the story and getting people to identify, relate, or want to be that. And I think even in the space that you do, we've had the conversation, but as much as you tell me like, hey man, you're an inspiration. You're an inspiration in the city.
Appreciate it.
And really are, because I watch what you do, and then I've had conversations with you like, yo, Ricky, I want to do this, this, and this, and I'm asking for your advice because you are one of those pillars of success. You've done it, and you've done it well over and over and over again because you have a formula. You know what the hell you're doing. And not to say that it wasn't trial and error. I know you went through fucking hell to do it, but it's impressive, right? And I think that's how you build a community. We always talk, going back to the rap shit, right? Everyone in this community is always talking about how the city doesn't have an identity and people don't come together and there's not enough structure or there's not enough money or there's not enough. But really it starts with watching someone brand build, someone like yourself, or even this is not toot my own horn, but when I started out, I did things that I learned from living in LA and watching other artists move. And then when I get to that point here and I start to do those things, it gives people a blueprint. And sometimes they can even expand on that blueprint. And I'm sure that you watch people coming up and watch people fail or watch people have some success, but then tooled with it and said, I can do this better. You know what I mean? And
that's basically how the world works, right? Especially in the open market and the free market, where in the US where it's all competition, you know what I'm saying? But you said you kind of hit it right on the head. I mean, you're looking at the way people move, businesses move, or artists at the time in LA or in other major cities, and you made it your own thing. You followed it. You did your own thing. And
I can't ever take credit for it. It's funny because I always tell people that they have that conversation with me. Question, how did you come up with this idea? I didn't.
No,
the truth is, and I'm going to say it to anybody, I look in the camera and tell them, I stole it. Yeah. I stole the idea and I made it better.
I didn't invent a food truck park.
Correct.
I went to Austin, saw that every food truck park was in a parking lot with no utilities, no amenities, no bar, no nothing. It was just food trucks that were selling out, 50, 60, 100 people in line, 2-hour waits. I'm like, man, imagine if this place looked like a nightclub or if it had a bar and bathrooms and seating.
It's adding to something that already exists. We were talking about this off camera before, like Apple. Apple is the king of that. It's where they've been able to develop things that already exist or to a degree exist, and they make it more thought out, better.
Yeah, people would clown them all the time because like Samsung had that 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm like, but Apple waits till they perfect it.
And they didn't adopt it. Like, right, those things don't get adopted by someone who uses Samsung. Or, not to say that doesn't, I'm not getting into like the war with people.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
But they're able to do those things where the community, the Apple community, and that's why I talk about community and brand building, Apple really could slap their name on anything, and there's a cult, there's a community that will go out and say, I support this. The HomePod came out. I don't know anyone that talks about a HomePod anymore, but when it came out, everybody wanted one. You know what I mean? So it's part of being that brand building, that community experience. And it's the same thing with what you're doing here. Like when I watch you with, Ika Chula and the Besame and all that, you've created these entities. And when you say, hey, I'm about to create a new entity, this is coming, people get excited. They say, okay, what has he got up his sleeve next? You're creating some excitement. You're creating this curiosity. And you've become the standard. And when you become the standard, what I hope from that and what I see from other people is there's people that are watching your blueprint and they're saying, all right, I want to do that, but different or better. And that's how you foster a larger community. And that's how you start to have a standard in a city and that works in music, that works in sports marketing, that works in anything. If you're able to create a standard, the competition part of it is how do you make something better? It's other people are competing. And I always say that when every brand that's ever came out, when you're first to market, you do have something. That's what I've had with my music career. I won't ever say I was the best rapper, I was this, but I was the first one to sign a major record deal as far as a hip hop artist, and I can always hang my hat on that, no matter what, right? The fact that I did that lets me have a conversation that no one else can have. However,
puts you in the conversation on almost everything. You can't really talk about San Antonio rap without mentioning Question.
Right. But at the same time, what I say to that is and it's not to say to take anything away from myself doing that. It's an honor that, but if I didn't have competition, if there was nobody there, if I got to the top of the hill and just said, it's me and I did it, and if I didn't have competition, there would never be any parity. There would never be anybody trying to get past that and do more than what I did. And so that's the thing I take the most pride in. It's not whether I sold a bunch of records or I made a bunch of money or anything. It's I accomplished something first and then kind of laid the groundwork for everybody else to go do some things. And I'm really proud of that. And it's the same thing that you're doing. And that's what I love is because I've watched you do stuff and I've had conversations with people saying, man, I just want to do what Ricky does. And you may not even know that, but there's people talking like that, right? But that's the power of
It's
television.
crazy to me because I guess it's one of them things where you don't really realize it until like for maybe further down the line, we're like, wow, I actually did all this stuff. And like, and to hear that, I really appreciate it, man. And as much as I joke online and sometimes can be a little cocky and arrogant and stuff like that or whatever, or just be just silly on the internet, like I really don't think much of myself on that level. But to when I have people message me things like actually tell me like, man, like you're such an inspiration, your story, everything that I've read about you, like, if you ever have any time, please, like, I'd love if you could like, consult me or mentor me or whatever. I mean, it's wild to hear stuff like that because it's like, it's just hard to see yourself as a teacher or
I will touch on this though. You said something and all that is, man, it's more than true, right? It's humbling. But you said something like you have this kind of aura of like cocky or there ain't nothing wrong with that either, man.
No, for sure.
And I hate that people try to act like you can't be proud of who you are and your accomplishments and the things you've done. Bro, you've taken from really nothing and turned it into this little empire that you have, right? Same thing what I've done. When I decided I wasn't going to make music anymore, people wrote me off. Like, what are you going to do then? Family members told me, what are you going to do then? Shit, I'm going to do any and everything I can. You know what I mean? I take a lot of pride in that I don't want to say arrogant. I'm not an arrogant person, but I'm full of confidence. I know what I'm capable of. I know that if I dream bigger than everybody else, I have a better chance of getting somewhere that most people won't get.
Oh, for sure, man. You got to aim high.
Because I aim high. I shoot for the ceiling, and if I make it halfway, then I've probably gotten farther than a lot of other people that are trying to do the same thing in the same space. So when you talk about the cockiness and the arrogance, man, that shit's okay. As long as at the end of the day, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not gonna like steal from people or hurt people, like steal from people in the real regard. Like stealing, I still, there's a book, I can't remember the art, but there's a book called Steal Like an Artist. And all art is just some reduplication and add-on of something else, right? There's very few original thoughts. There's very few original pieces. My rap career, it's all pieces of my influences. I grew up listening to Ludacris and Scarface and Eminem and Biggie, and those are the people who inspired me. Outkast was the biggest thing in the world to me, and I wanted to make music like that. So my art is a reflection of my influences. The same thing what you do in business. When you see the way people move in business, a lot of it is their influences, people that taught them business. Working for Cameron at Davies. I'm not there anymore, but I'm so grateful and blessed for that opportunity because I was put in a position to do things that I never imagined in my life that I would do ever. And getting in those spaces and you get in those rooms with major brands and entertainers and artists and Steph Curry and all these different people we met, right? Yeah. Right? It's crazy. But then you start to realize like, oh shit, I belong here, right? And once you know you belong, you may not have the knowledge base, but if you have the confidence that you belong and you can hang with anybody, and I really believe that when I get in a room with somebody, someone may be 1,000 times more accomplished than me, but if we talk on the same level and I realize like, okay, I can either learn something for this person or I can teach this person something or I can do both, I have a leg up on anybody that's going to come in here and have shaky confidence or not be so sure of what they can do. I walk in going, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm not the best person in the room when it comes to accomplishments, but I am the hardest working and I have confidence in myself. So there's nothing wrong with I see people do that. Either they say you're too cocky or you're too arrogant or you're not cocky or arrogant enough. And I think you have a pretty damn good balance of it.
Try to, yeah.
And I think that's where we resemble each other is like, I don't come off as very cocky and arrogant. And by design, like I just don't ever want to have, it's really because I just get annoyed when people try to have these debates with me and I'm like, dude, no offense, you've never done the stuff that I've done. So I'm not gonna debate you on, you're in the stands and I've actually been on the field. I don't want to do that. So that's the reason I don't really I just don't have the time for it. But if somebody sits down in person and they want to have that conversation, I will gladly be a little cocky with them but sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to, I hate to say it, you gotta pull your nuts out and just be like, look, I've done this. So listen to what I'm saying, take it with a grain of salt. You're not gonna agree with everything I say, but if even one thing I say says to you changes you in any kind of way or even pushes you in a way that transforms what you're trying to do, then it's worth me being cocky to someone. It's worth me. And then there's a time to have humility. So it's really about knowing how to balance that thing, because at the end of the day, we go through every fucking range of emotion as a human being. There's days where
especially in business.
Especially in business, right? You said it before we walked in, man. You've put in double the money into this new spot that you have that you didn't expect to. You've taken it on the chin, but at the same time, there's still that confidence of when this opens, when I get this off the ground, it's going to be all worth all the struggle. And that's the same thing I go through. It's the same. I've put myself through the ringer. The stuff that I've done with Davies, that was a rewarding job, but it was a job that never ended. I woke up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm still working, and it's carried over into what I do now. So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of just stress. It's a lot of stress, but at the same time, it's a blessing. I could be digging ditches for a living, so I'd much rather, deal with prima donna athletes and trying to go get them brand deals and trying to do the things that I'm doing than,
But that's one of the things that to like backtrack on that a little bit from what you were saying. The groups in town, like you were always the guy we had to we got to be on that level. You're always the guy to beat. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like for popularity or for for the mentions and the accolades and people. People just the amount of people, the amount of respect that the city has for you. Right. It's like it puts you on that pedestal. But then over the years, the similarities are crazy. I mean, you got a few years on me, a lot more experience in life, right? Like with things that you've been involved in, from music to the professional world and marketing and stuff. But I'd say it's definitely a big inspiration to me as far as the way you move through things. Like you said, it like if you're in any room, you can relate, right? You can be with multimillionaire professionals, like entrepreneurs, whatever, right? I mean, celebrities, and you fit in. Yeah. And you could be in the hood and chilling with the homies, and you fit in.
When people tell me that, like, we were chasing you and trying to get you where you were. And I think the one advantage I had is, and I think it was from living in LA, and I was around a lot of artists from different areas, is I never thought about, not to say that I didn't look at anybody as competition, I did. I wanted to push myself to be better, but I never thought about being, I want to be the best rapper in San Antonio, or I want to be the most popular. I did not care about that. I wanted to be the biggest in the world. And I didn't hit that mark, but because I was chasing that, I think that I was able to elevate what I was doing. I always had this motto, like, people would always ask me, like, what are you trying to do? You want to go platinum, or you want? I said, nah, bro. I will not consider myself a success until I own a building, a big skyscraper that has my last name on it. That was always my goal. That was the, where I wanted to reach. And because of that, I think that's the part of having humility. Even though I can be cocky and arrogant, the humility is I've been around people with extreme success and extreme money and. Like, I was just on the phone with my boy before I got in here. He's in Saudi Arabia with the Prince of Saudi Arabia, like the Crown Prince, meeting with them. Like, they have billions of dollars.
And they're going hard on
hard on all this sports stuff,
it's
right?
Crazy.
And for me, I've seen stuff that, on a local level, I've had people tell me, like, man, you did this. And I'm like, man, it's nothing. It's really nothing. In the grand scheme of things, I'm not curing cancer. I'm not out here changing the world, right? It's music. So I think sometimes people take it too serious, even though it's their life and it meant everything to me. But at the same time, like, sometimes you got to take a step back and you have to kind of reset those goals to go from, look, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't shoot to be the best rapper in the city. You should. I think you start there. But if that is your ultimate goal, if that is the pinnacle of your success, you might as well quit. Like, you should be trying to compete with everyone in the game. And that's the same thing with you. You're in this structure with this bar business, but I know you. Like, even the few conversations I would, and I'm not saying I know anything about your plans, but I would not be surprised if you start to expand outside of this city.
Oh man, that's already in my mind. All day, every day is the only thing I think about.
You also know that this format that you've done here would work really well in Austin, or it would work really well in LA,
anywhere in any southern mild climate state where you don't have crazy ass
weather.
Like, you'd be all right. You know what I'm saying?
And there's just so much more to it. And I think as you go down this path, same thing I'm going with this sports stuff. Like, I never imagined in a million years that I would get into this. I got into it by accident. It was purely by accident. Like, I didn't get into it like, I want to be in sports marketing or run a sports agency. That was not. I've always dibbled and dabbled it. I love sports, but I started doing the content stuff, and we built some pretty big mobile assets. Me and Cameron did, and some universities got to us, and then all of a sudden I started meeting college athletes who were like, "Yo, I want a food truck." Gave me an idea. Like, I sent you some of the stuff of like, okay, I want to create a food truck for University of Alabama football and give some NIL deals to players so they could be part of their own ecosystem and learn the business. And that just opened up the door to everybody wanted to talk to me about it. And once I got into it, I was like, oh, this is a space that I want to play in. And then the actual pursuit of learning how to market, and not just athletes, but just brands and how those things come together. And ultimately, like, being able to tell a story. It's just storytelling at the end of the day. That's all marketing is. You're telling a story. And I'm good at that. Even from the music shit, I've always prided myself on being able to tell a story. And I think that's the core of what I do and how I do it. But it also, the parallel to how I started. Like, I feel like I go back to building community. When people got behind me, the story was, yo, this is the first rapper to sign a major record deal. How did he do it? That was the story. It wasn't. And I'm. This is my humility again. I'm not saying that I made horrible music, but I also know that I didn't make the greatest music in the world. I think it was good, right? I think I had some stuff that was better than others. But I know that more people were enamored with the story of how did you do it.
The brand,
right?
Like,
and the brand is.
Remember seeing the Suburban with the question
rap
and all that stuff, rapped
right?
and all that?
I did things that other people didn't do, and they wanted to know how. It was more of, and it goes back to what is in it for me. The reason people were fans or they wanted to know the story is not because, damn, question, I just love your music and I want to support you. It's, yo, how can I do that? Yeah. I want to do the same thing.
Or be a part of it.
Right? And it's the same thing, man, that you're doing. Is when I say people are inspired by it, it's not like, man, Ricky's so dope. It's, shit, Ricky's dope, but could I be doper? Could I make more money? Could I do a concept that's even better? How can I advance my life? And I think a lot of people, that goes back to the cockiness and arrogant part. People sometimes are scared to say those things, and I don't think we should do that anymore. I think the dialogue should be very straightforward. Yo, what's in it for me? Like,
always.
How can I push myself forward? Because then you really start to form real alignment. It's not fake bullshit like, yo, let's have camaraderie and unity in the city because we should have that. Nah,
we need competition. Right?
We need competition. And I look at it like playing ball, right? You get on a basketball court. I want to bust your ass on a basketball court. I want to dunk on you. I want to hit a three in your face. But when we get off the court, I can still dap you up. We can go get something to eat. We're cool. And that's how I've always viewed the music stuff. And even in this marketing space right now, like, I'm up against other people who are in the same space. They're competing against me. They're vying for the same athletes. And it's very similar. I have to sell myself and sell the story. And the players and their families at the end of the day want to know, what's in it for me? And not just money, like, how are you going to accelerate my brand? How are you going to tell my story? How are you going to get me in front of people?
There's major competition. I mean, if you want to be noticed as an athlete, you want to get that check one day, you better stand out.
You better stand out.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's funny you say that because there's guys that are starting to realize, there's even guys, like, I have kids that are going to go in the NFL draft right now, right? There's not a lot of parity. There's a guy that could be drafted 10th that's not any better than the guy who gets drafted 25th, other than the fact that the guy who's 10th, he marketed himself better. The team looks at him as more of a viable, like, he's going to get in here and play, or his highlights and his content and his social media presence and all those things play into it. And that's all this thing comes down to. At the end of the day, you're telling your story.
The fundamentals of marketing apply in any industry almost. You know what I'm saying? Like, to go back to the competition thing, I mean, my favorite music era for me, I mean, it was obviously 50. You know what I'm saying? Because you came in and completely just did something that really hadn't been done in that aggressive way, right? Where
shook it up.
Calling everybody out, shake everything up. I didn't go in and just like call out all the food trucks, but I used to talk a lot of shit when I started Holy Smoke.
But
best
you stir
this,
it
the
up.
best that, but you stir it up and you get people paying attention to you. And but the one thing that I think I delivered in that space that no one else was doing was the marketing. Why I feel like the similarities, and now I get it now, is like, you're just a hell of a marketer. You know what I'm saying? Like, branding, marketing is your thing, and even in music, but you could be in anything. You know what I mean? I know that I could be in any industry and make a name for myself.
But here's the thing, like even when you talk about, and I don't know if you've really touched on this a lot, but even when you did the Ice JJ Fish thing, right? When you did that, right? But think about where that got you. You know what I mean? It opened up a lot of doors for you, got people talking, and people knew you were the guy who were behind that. And then even I wanted to know, how'd you do that? Where did this come from? how did you make this connection to this thing that had this virality? And it wasn't like this, you know, you can call it lightning in the bottle, but it was just the timing of it. All these things came into play. But then you got into the space, and you know, the Michael Traps and all the different pieces that you started to play with, and that's raw. And you were one of the first people to really play in this space before I remember having conversations with you about doing a podcast when nobody was doing
podcasts. Weren't even a thing.
They weren't even a thing, and you were like, I want to do a podcast. So I remember having those conversations with you. And what I find so unique about it, and that's where the parallels between me and you I think are very similar, is you've taken the path that you did in video editing and learning how to create content for artists, and then when you had your own brands, you just moved that over.
That's exactly what I did.
You moved it over, and you said, yo, I'm going to make this exciting. Like, bro, I swear to God, I post, you know, and it's not just purely out of like, hey, I know Ricky. When you post something from Besame, El Camino, any of these spots, I repost them because of how well done they are. And then I meet people that are outside of San Antonio, and they always ask me, like, what's popping there? What's going on? And when they see that, like my guy that I was just on the phone with, swear to God, bro, I posted Besame, and then he hits me. He's like, yo, where's this at? I'm like, it's in San Antonio. And he lives in L.A. He's like, bro, I'm coming. Just because of what the content
Appreciate
was
it, man.
inviting, right? But not to butter you up. It's really to tell you, like, you've been able to take what you did in the past and move it over. And it's the same thing with me. When I was making music and trying to market myself, I didn't realize I was a marketer. I just knew, it sounds crazy, I sold drugs. And to me, I looked at it like, I want to get people hooked on what I'm doing. I'm going to give it away for free, and I'm going to get them in the door.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Half-baked. Half-baked, right?
Yeah.
That was the principle, but that's still marketing.
Yeah.
And as I got further along into it and I started managing artists, and then I'm realizing, like, yo, this has nothing to do with talent. Like, the talent is just the cherry on top. It's really how you market someone, and you build a brand, you build a community around it. And when I started to learn that, all these things that I've learned from doing music moved over. When I work with athletes right now, I work with them how I would work with a rapper.
I mean, sports is parallel to entertainment, to music for sure.
100%. So I'm able to take those methods and those practices that I learned from managing music artists, and I've applied it to the athletes, and the results, you can't argue with them. And now that's why I'm getting a lot of business that I never thought I'd get, because they're like, yo, I saw what you did for this guy. I want the same game plan. I want the same strategy. I want the same. And that is all from what I did in music. So I've been able to carry that stuff over. And it's the same thing you did. I watched you.
I'm building up food trucks.
Building up. It's
all the people around me. Think of all the food trucks that have ever passed through El Camino or Besame.
Yep.
Even the ones that had a name for themselves. It's like being at my spots almost gives them a little clout, because like their brands become stronger. More people know about them because we market the hell out of them. You know what I mean?
Gave
like,
them a platform.
The HBO feature, you know, with Carla Hall. I mean, all that stuff, man. It's just, you know.
No, it's giving them a platform, and it's the same. It's the same thing with managing music artists. You're able to give them a platform. They have a better chance of selling themselves to someone if there's a place to sell it from. And it's just like the stuff you've done at an El Camino, bro. The first time I went there, that's the selling point. You get there, the alcohol's there, the environment's there, the food options are there, and it's good. It's curated. I know it's not like you're like, hey, I don't care what your food
I'm
tray
picky
tastes
about
like.
who comes in.
You're picky about who's there. And it's the same thing. Like, if you're able to build a platform to sell something from, it has to be appealing before anyone ever tries the product. It has to be, this is inviting. I have to come in and do this.
If you look at almost everything that I've done, but Holy Smoke being the main one, right? Like, you know, I guess where I got my start in the food truck game. One of the first things that I did a free taco day. And it wasn't nothing big. It was just Free Taco Tuesday. I went and got my guy at a Chili Media to make me a sign, said free tacos. Basically, it was an L for the day, right? It was just like, I know I'm going to lose $800 today.
People in the door.
But we ran out of all the tacos. You know, it cost me $800 to do that. But the following 2 weeks was just crazy busy. Maybe a month later, it was David Elder from KSAT, Elder Eats.
Yeah.
I told him, like, yo, man, I got this crazy idea. Like, I want to give away like 5,000 tacos on a weekend or whatever. It was mid-COVID and all that stuff. We sold out 5,000. Like, we ran through all of it. I did another one 2 months later. I want to do 15,000, right? And we did it. You know, we weren't making a ton of, we were making good money, but margins in food suck. Right. You know, so it's like, you know, if it cost me $1,500 to do it, it's digging into my pockets. But that launched the $1 million business the whole following year, and because we had already built that brand and the community, you know, from people being appreciative that we were giving out, you know, food for free, during the pandemic. You know what I'm saying?
So it's funny because this is how you know I'm old. I'm from the mixtape era. I'm from the handing out your CD era, right? No bullshit. I got a tax return, and I flipped the tax return. Did some shit to make some extra money, and I pressed up 10,000 CDs. Of the I Am Question, the first thing that I put out.
You gave it out, right?
I gave it out for free to everybody. And they were like, yo, you're fucking up the game. Why are you doing that? And to me, it was never about even whether people listen to the music. I know that sounds crazy. I have people to this day that told me, yo, I got the CD and it laid on the floorboard of my car for 2 years till I finally put it in the deck and listened to it. But that's what mattered to me. It wasn't about, yo, you're going to listen to this music and make some kind of connection. I just wanted people aware, recognize the branding. I give them something. And by the time I've recruited 1,000 people to know who I am, you couldn't sell 50 CDs, right? So I already have a leg up. I now have a database of people who know who I am. And ultimately, when my song went on the radio, there was no mystery to who it was. People were like, oh, that's the guy that's giving away all the CDs in the rap truck driving around.
But people like attach themselves a little stronger to when it's stories like that, right? To where it's like, oh man, like they become even like more like bigger fans.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, I got that dude's CD like when it was like,
nothing.
free, when he was just giving them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I have that story all the time. It's kind of like a folklore thing. Like, oh, I remember Fiesta, you were driving around and you were handing out CDs to everybody. And then like a month later, you on the radio. Well, that was all by design. It was, all right, man, I'm going to give out these CDs to everybody. And then the song's going to drop on radio. And I want people to be able to say, I know who that, oh, that's that question guy.
Yeah, but you created community. You created a connection.
Connection.
You created a connection to your fans,
right.
to your listeners. And, yeah, sure, you give out 10,000, you might only retain 1,000.
1,000.
Of listeners and people that actually, like, listen to the CD, right?
Correct.
But when it came out on the radio, it's like an instant
connection.
Yeah, for a long time. I mean, even now, because, I mean, that was 20 years ago, like, give or take.
15, yeah.
15, Was it 06?
Let me think. 07. So
07.
Yeah, it was more than 15. 13,
so
17, 17,
it's going on 20. It's 17 years ago.
Damn, I forget how old I am sometimes.
But even now, you still have those fans. Because I see when you post, like, people, like, look up to you, like still, like,
they do,
not
man,
just nostalgic, but it's like, it's still a big part of their life. You know what I'm saying? Because people are passionate about music.
They're passionate about music, and they're passionate about, like, that's the thing, too. Like, I explained it's funny because, I think you've even debated about this. Like, to us guys that grew up in the era of hip hop that we grew up in, the new music just sounds.
I can't listen to it. I mean, it's nothing. I don't know. I just can't relate. I can't even understand.
But I think the thing that we all miss, or we not that we miss it, we're conscientious of it, but music correlates to times in our life. So we can't expect some 19-year-old to relate to the music we grew up to because it was a reflection of the era. It was a reflection of the times. Like, you don't have big giant nightclubs where people go. That doesn't really exist. But back when we were around, we was in the club.
Yeah, that existed.
And people
back then.
fucking were tearing it up and doing all these things. So there's these things that we correlate to places in time. We also, it's so fragmented now, but we grew up in an era where we had BET and MTV and maybe VH1, but it was really BET and MTV were the two things we watched. So we were all watching the same exact thing and being molded by the same thing. And then we were in the era of the internet where people started to download their own music and you had these online communities and chat rooms. And now it's so broken apart and there's so many subgenres and there's so many.
Yeah, you're right. Back then there wasn't that many subgenres of rap. It was
like you had snap music and trap music and gangster rap and conscious rap. You didn't. Now there's music. I mean, Jelly Roll is a country artist that started. I remember I met him in 2007. He was rapping, and now he's doing what he's. But it's country. You have all these things that are shifting, and it's because things are so broken apart. A lot of people think that's a bad thing. I don't. And the reason I say that is, and I posted something earlier, but it's the truth to me. We're in an era now where I would rather have 1,000 diehard fans that gave me $10 a month for something tangible, whether that's a new song or Patreon or a ticket or a T-shirt or whatever. But if I knew I had 1,000 fans that would give me $10, that's $120,000 a year. I know a lot of rappers out here that they're getting by on 30 grand a year, 40 grand a year, trying to support their career. If you can make 120 grand a year off 1,000 people, and let's say you just split it in half, you kept 60 to support your lifestyle, and you reinvested the other 60. Well, then, bro, the next year you're gonna have 2,000 or 3,000 fans that are willing to give you $10. And I'd rather people build a fan base like that now and build that kind of community that's just strictly for them. This is my fan base. Like, and yeah, there may be some carryover, but there is a niche now. You can literally just say, I mean, this sounds crazy, but right now, if you said, yo, I'm gonna make music and I'm only gonna make music about food trucks, right? It sounds stupid. But there's 1,000 people out there that love eating at food trucks, and they would say,
food truck owners,
and they say, I support this, right? You have a niche there, and you could tap into that. So that's what a lot of these artists are just like, I'm going to put it out there for the world, and I hope everybody loves it. That day and age has passed us, where we don't have the outlets. Radio's not a thing anymore like it used to be. I hate saying that because I have a lot of friends at radio, but it really isn't.
No, it isn't. Yeah.
Television is not the thing it used to be anymore. So because these things are so split apart, it's the same thing. Like, if you can do that, I'd much rather you have 1,000 diehard fans that will, quote unquote, subscribe to whatever you're putting out every month, and then you're able to build and actually invest in yourself. Then say, man, I hope 100,000 people stream me. Well, you're not even going to make a penny off those 100,000 people that stream you, and you don't really know, really, truly, are they fans? Just because somebody listens to you or watches a video does not mean that they like you or they're a fan. You want people that are engaging, that keep coming back for more. Just like a restaurant. Like, if somebody comes to, one of your establishments and they only come once, how valuable are they?
Yeah,
to
exactly.
You,
No,
right?
the retention is the most important
The retention
part.
and the engagement is the most important part. So that's the thing for me, is like, I want to teach that to people, is like, you don't have to be a megastar to actually have a career in this. And if you look at the guys who are having success right now, they're the guys who have built a fan base over years and years and years and years of time. And then they have a tipping point where those fans become their community, their connectors. They're the ones who say, once you have 10, 20,000 fans that really, really adore you, they're going to go tell everybody about you, because now they're part of a community. They're going to say, man, are you up on this? This is what you should be a part of. That's how you build a fan base. Let me put out a video and hope it goes viral. Bro, you have a better chance of winning the lottery. You know what I mean? Like, that day and age of going viral and all that, to me, it's so saturated. It's so whatever.
Everybody's going viral.
It's the same thing with, like, the podcast shit, right? I love that you're doing this podcast because this is a niche. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about business owners. It's about people who are really go after that fucking audience, because there's so many people who want to do what me and you are doing. Or Justin's doing. When you had Justin on here, I love seeing and watching that, because he's another guy that I watched, and he built these things up slowly but surely. There's an audience for that. There's somebody right now, 20 years old, 21 years old, that says, I want to own a bar one day, that might see this and go,
I've already had it.
You've already hit me up. They've already hit you up.
Yeah.
So to me, that's your audience, and that's your community. That's your school. That's the school you're putting together.
I know I had mentioned earlier, like, I was like, nah, I'm not bummed out. I was just thinking about it. But, I took my old, it's that raw, the thatraw.com page on YouTube, turned it into, Hunger for More podcast. The views, I mean, for having 6,000 subscribers, the views are like 11 views a day. But, when you're saying that, it makes me really realize it don't matter if it's 100.
It doesn't.
You know what I'm saying? Because if it's 100 and there's one person in there that maybe wants to work with me, or is an investor and maybe wants to do an El Camino in another city, or whatever, it's gonna happen.
It's not even just and I would say this. It's not even, man. If you're getting 100 views and it feels like, man, nobody's watching this. Yeah. But if the 100 people that are watching it are so engaged, so enthralled, they're in the comments, they're reaching out to me after I'm on here, they're reaching out to you after they're on here. They see even the format of this and how good this looks. They're reaching out to the producers of this and saying, yo, I love the content you created for this. Can we work on this? You start to create this creator community that way. You start to get people who say, all right, man, I want to do a version of what you're doing. Or, hey, you're doing food truck stuff. I want to do something in fashion, but I want to use your blueprint of it. When you start to get these ideas together, and it's not some, like we talk about, man, it's not some unified bullshit, man, kumbaya, like, that shit is stupid. It really is. It doesn't breed anything other than some fake handshakes and maybe somebody buy you a drink when you're at the bar. That's really all it is. You do have to have some genuine camaraderie. You do have to have genuine dialogue. You have
to be able to bring value to other people.
Because again, at the end of the day, that's what we talked about at the beginning of this. At the end of the day, it really is it's not about you. It's about them. What does it mean to them? That's all it is. Even in this sports market shit with these kids, I could sit here and tell them all day, I've done this, I worked with so-and-so, you know, I was friends with Nipsey Hussle. I can give them all my accolades. They don't give a shit about that. What's in it for them? I bust my ass on the field. Can you go get me a check? Yo, I want to be, you know, I got a kid right now that even though he plays college football, he really wants to be an actor. Yo, can you get me auditions? Can you do X, Y? It's always about the person.
It's always about the other person. Man, you know, in the food truck business, aside from the marketing and all that stuff, you know, when you really look at what I'm doing, I mean, the reason why I'm building people up and helping businesses get their start or improve where they currently are, even if they already have a following, all that stuff, you know, bring them up to a higher level with revenue and all that stuff is because the better they do, the better I'm going to do. But I can't just go in with that mentality that I'm only going to big them up so it benefits me. It's like I actually have to invest time and effort into building those people up. And then, you know, even in the podcast or just through stuff that, you know, through Instagram and Facebook, I've had multiple messages of, you know, people wanting to get into the game. And I'll take the time and like write them back and be like, hey, man, look, or I'll send them, I do voice memos because they're way faster.
They're way faster.
You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, look, do this, this, and this. When you get to this point, hit me up and then we'll talk more. I'm not just trying to build up, you know, my current community. I'm trying to expand that because who knows, man, what if I open up another food truck park in San Antonio or I go to Buda or Austin or Houston? You know what I'm saying? Like I need to, if I'm going to do more food truck park platforms or ghost kitchen setups or whatever I'm going to get into and it relies on other people, you know, being in the business, you know, for me to give them the space to work.
Yep.
You know, I have to be a resource for them.
I always look at it like this. There's always people say, man, I don't want to hit you up because I feel, man, hit me up. And if I just don't have time, I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be like, hey, man, I don't have time to explain this to you. I don't. But always hit someone up and always do what you're doing and you kind of share that and instill that wisdom, give them the support, everything, because you never know. And I've learned this the hard way. I've come up with people in the music business that are now very, very powerful executives. And some of them I had great relationships with, so I still have it. But there's other people that I didn't open the door for or I didn't try to support that are now in a position that could help me. And so this stuff is symbiotic. Obviously, people never want to admit that, yo, I'm thinking about what it could do for me. But at the end of the day, to be successful, and I always tell people what I think the keys to success are, is having someone else believe in your dream like it's their own dream, right? And when you have that, you can't lose because of the fact that when someone else is dreaming with you, and I always say this, they have ulterior motives. They always do. No one is simply dreaming about your dream because they want to see you win. They're thinking, how does this dream benefit me?
I don't have expectations when I help people out, you know what I'm saying, or anything like that, or put them in place. But yeah, I'd be lying to say it's like I'm only doing it for, you know,
so,
just for
look,
like.
I say this. I think when I mentor somebody or I help somebody or anything, it really is out of the kindness of my heart.
For sure.
Because I really don't have
100%.
the time to do that. And part of it is I do want to see people be successful. I do, because I truly believe to build up what we're trying to do as a city, as a region, as a state, all that, it does take that. But it is a bold-faced lie if I say, man, I don't expect nothing back. Yeah. Now, do I think I'll get something back? I always say no. I always say, I'm not going to get it back. But it would be really nice of that person to 100%. Return the gesture if something I did help.
I'm in the same boat. When it's somebody reaching out for help, I give keys with no expectation.
None.
Zero. You know what I'm saying? I want to help. I want to see people win and get that start. It's when they're in my circle and I'm helping them, you know, like make money and see levels of success that they've never seen before. It's like, okay, I won't put nothing on paper. I don't want no percentage. I don't want no nothing from you. You know what I'm saying? I was like, but I do expect to eat together, right? Like Correct. As we go. Most of my relationships in business at the food truck parks are like mutually beneficial. 100%. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like they bring customers, I bring customers. We both eat. You know what I'm saying? But I have had a few under my belt to where it's like, oh, you're not just eating, like you're seeing like mega success, right? You don't want to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you know.
And rightfully so. I mean, that's how I look at it. Rightfully so, right? And I'm someone who thinks like that too, to a degree. I think the only thing for me is I'm just like you. I don't need no paperwork. I need a handshake. Like, hey man, if I help you do this, when you get to the point, man, return the favor if you can. And if somebody doesn't, I also don't take it so personal like a lot of people do. Like, man, fuck that. I don't. I just say, look, for whatever reason, they didn't find enough value in what I provided them. That doesn't prevent me from doing it for someone else. I am an open book. If you call me and say, man, I want the blueprint to how you got a record deal, cool, I'll explain it to you. Even though that was 17 years ago, 16 years ago, so much has changed since then. So the stuff that I'm going to instill on you is probably antiquated, but I will give you the blueprint. Sports marketing, television, any of those things that I've been involved with, I will boxing, putting together boxing events, all that, activations, any of that stuff, I will gladly share that with anybody. Like literally share it with anybody. But at the same time, I want the mutual respect of I'm giving you something of value. If this helps you in any way, and at some point I need something of value back, and it may be $10, whatever it is, but I hate the idea of somebody just saying I'm going to take, and then peace. Thank you for helping me, and that's it. And a lot of times you don't even get a thank you, and I've had that happen to me a bunch. But it doesn't defeat me to the point that I won't do it for someone else, because I guess that's where you go into the Gary V part of it, where he's like, man, do it out of kindness. I do it out of pure kindness, with the idea that maybe someday this will come back to me, and maybe it won't even be from that person, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I open the door for him, and he gets in with somebody else, and then introduces me to somebody else who opens another door for me. I believe in karma. You know what I mean? If you're able to do things in that level, hopefully it'll come back to you. And for the most part, it has come back to me. I can probably name 3 or 4 people that I feel like really screwed me over and didn't care that I, gave them whatever I gave them, and that's fine. But there's a lot of people that have continued to open doors for me, literally just because I kept it real, and I was like, look, this is my expectation. I'm not asking you to split with me or give me half of whatever it's not what I'm in it for, but acknowledge what I've given to you, and then how do we build from that? Can we build something else now that you've gotten to the place you are, or is there something that you can provide me in the future? And that's it. And if we all have that baseline, I think it makes it a lot easier to navigate this stuff than when you're bullshitting like, oh, I don't want nothing. I don't. Yeah. Because people do that. I don't want nothing. I don't like.
Actually, I never actually.
I'm doing this out of love, and then when they blow up, and you're like, man, why didn't this motherfucker take care of me? And it's you already set the stage for it. You made it seem like you didn't need nothing in return.
But on my level, from where I'm at, in my type of business is what I'm saying is that I'm trying to set myself up to where I can help these people. Right, and it can help small businesses get their start, but I also want to be like the authority in the space to where it's not just like my knowledge, but also like what I'm providing.
Correct.
Because it's such a niche market. There's only 6 commissaries in the entire city, so I'm working on that. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So
crazy.
And every food truck or every cart that goes through the city permitting has to go through one of those 6 commissaries to get their commissary letters, right? And it's $450 a year. You know what I'm saying? So there's thousands and thousands of more ghost kitchens and food trucks being open. So there's a market there, right? So if I get into that space, then boom, I got my network. I've helped all these people out. I become the resource in the space. You know what I'm saying for that part of it. But then I also have the food truck parks. More and more legislation is happening with in the food truck space to where they're becoming more regulated, right? For health department, all that stuff, which is important because you don't want people getting sick, and you want people operating legally and safely. I'm trying to set myself up to where I want to help as many people as I can get into the space because these are all future customers. I mean, just to be real about it, that's as long as I can position myself to where they're always going to need to go to me. I might be one of 7 options, but
you're an option.
But I'm an option.
And you're probably the biggest option. Yeah. I think that's what it's about, man. Like, look, man, you're at the end of the day, and you probably answer this way. What we're doing, we're legacy building. We're not. I could sit here and tell you that, I'm this super sports marketer or I'm this, entertainment guy or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to build a legacy. I want to be able to put my name on things. And when this is all said and done, it's man, I want to create wealth. I want to create all those things. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to look back and just say, man, I had a lot of fun doing this. I created some opportunities for other people who in turn created more opportunities for other people. There's this effect of like this trickle down, and it turned into something that built up, you know what I mean? And my name is part of that. That legacy thing is super important to me.
For sure.
So like, even when I think about the stuff you're doing, I have no idea what you ultimately want to get into or if you have anything beyond this, but I'd assume that you're not stopping with just food truck parks and commissary. And I can totally see you expanding that into.
It's funny because I daydream about everything, man. Like from, like okay, I'm like, okay, like part of me, like one day, like one moment in the day, I'll be like, I want to work with lawyers. I want to build lawyer brands because, they make, whatever, 300, 400 million a year, injury lawyers and stuff like that. I want a little piece. If I can get 5% of that or 1% of that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll be happy there. But then I'm like, okay, maybe I can go market cars. Maybe I can do this. When you had told me, or when I saw you, getting into the sports industry and stuff like that, sports agents and stuff like that, like I daydream constantly about that. I'm like, I can do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I have that weird, I don't know what it is, man. I mean, I don't know.
It's not weird, man. We think we're weird, but we're not.
ADHD, whatever it is, but I bounce around so much.
But what it is, ultimately, like you're the same thing I am. We're builders. Like we build things. And we may not be building things in the traditional sense of nuts and bolts and all that, but we build stuff.
I can't build shit, man.
Right. But you have, right? We are architects of creativity, and the creativity can be in business. That's the thing that I think a lot of people lose sight of. Like they think business and creativity are so far apart, but there's so much creation and so much art that goes into building a business, right?
It's all art.
It's all art, and you have to. There's these guidelines and there's these things that you're manipulating. And you're trying to bend rules and you're trying to figure out creative ways to get around problems. And we build things, and I don't even say things. We build ideas. I'm an idea builder. I always say this thing, man. That's been like my theme for this year is like I'm really, really good at ideation. Like the same thing. I sit there and have ideas all day long. It never stops. I can't turn my brain off. It can be 2:00 in the morning, and I wake up and I start writing things down because I'm just thinking of. Doesn't matter what it is, apps to software to television show ideas to, whatever you can think of, man. Like I am an idea person, so ideation I've never had a problem with. The execution part, though I've had some success in executing those things, I haven't always, and it really boils down to ideation and execution. A lot of people have great ideas, they don't know how to execute. And there's people that are really, really good at executing, but they don't know how to come up with the ideas to execute. And I think that's the world we live in. We're idea people that know how to close it up and know how to make it happen. And I think it is unique, but at the same time, it is something that can be instilled in other people. And there's people out there that don't necessarily know where to start in that. And it's just, to me, it's that we'll go back to that confidence part. Just confident, like, man, there's so much shit that I don't know, especially in the sports business. I'm still learning about the sports business every day.
But it's crazy because you probably figured out how to start.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I have that same thing to where it's like the opposite problem that most people have. People will have ideas, don't know how to start. I'll have an idea and just fucking jump in head first and do it.
And then you learn that way.
You learn.
And
you might fuck up, but
I would rather someone do that than sit for 5-10 years thinking about the what if. Man, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or what if I would have done this? Yeah. Just fucking do it. And what I tell people all the time, I have this conversation with countless people because they always say, man, think about quitting doing music, or I'm thinking about quitting being a video editor, or I'm thinking about, I have a friend who's a software developer. Man, I'm thinking about quitting because it's just, and I always say, man, quit should not be the key word there in your vocabulary. It's pivot. You can start something and go head first into it, just like you started. I remember when you started and you had this idea for something, you never quit. You just would pivot to the next thing.
Got out of the food truck thing because I didn't want to be in food trucks no more.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I knew pretty early on, like a year into Holy Smoke, all right, we're successful, we're best barbecue, we're this, that, huge following. Money was good, but I got El Camino open. I'm like, why am I working or having my people work this fucking hard to make this much money that I make in one single day at the bar? You know what I'm saying? Like, 100%. It was time to pivot and move on to
and I think the pivot is the most important part is when I tell people that, like, I have friends, I know you do too, friends that have been trying to chase this music shit for 20 years. Like, they started when they were 16 and they're fucking 36, 37 going, man, I wasted 20 years of my life trying to be a rapper and it never panned out. I'm just going to quit. And what I've learned is you can take every element of being a rapper, the creative part, learning how to brand yourself, market yourself. You meet other creatives in the space.
You can apply it all to business.
You can apply it all to business.
100%. Think about that all the time, man. Like, I said it on Mozzie's podcast, I think, is like, when I was selling Ty CDs out the trunk with Vandal, I knew at that moment, I was like, if I could sell this from a guy that not many people know, but people know of. I mean, he's on the radio and stuff like that. But if I can sell this CD out of a trunk from a rapper in San Antonio, I could sell anything.
You can sell anything. I remember people telling me, you'll never get a record deal being from the city. You'll never do that. And when I did it, I was like, and this sounds crazy to say this, it was fucking easy. And when people hear that, they don't like hearing that. What do you mean it was easy? It was easy. And the reason it was easy is because I never quit. I never gave up. No meant nothing to me. When someone said, nah, you ain't it, or you ain't dope enough, or you ain't this, or you don't have this, that never derailed me, ever. I just said, no, this is what I'm going to do. And then when it fell apart, and it fell apart when people don't realize I got a major record deal. I had everybody behind me. Everything was going my way. And then the door gets slammed on you where they're like, look, we're not doing this anymore. And I had to fight to get out of Sony, and I had to do all these different things, right? A lot of people would have just said, all right, man, I'm going to go back to just rapping and trying to get another record deal. And for me, it's like, nah, I've done this already. And that it was easy getting it. It was hard getting out of it, which was crazy. It was easy getting it. I just kept working. I would not stop. And I think when I got to the point, I said, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to learn everything I can about the music business. I started getting in the tech space. I'm going to learn everything I can about tech. These things kind of converged for me. And then when I got to the opportunity with Davies, it was like, oh, you know entertainment, you know music. Whoa, you've worked in tech, you've worked in marketing, you've done all these different things. All right, cool, let's do X, Y, Z. And we did some shit that, frankly, I never imagined myself doing. I never thought I'd be a part of. Cameron is one of those guys where man, God bless him, but my motherfucker will jump into anything. He doesn't have to know about it. He doesn't have to if he just hears this is cool, he'll jump in head first. And I was that person to a degree, but never to the degree he is. But that taught me so much. It taught me some good and bad things, but it taught me about, like, yo, sometimes you just got to fucking jump in the water.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to jump in. And if you don't know how to swim, well, one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to fucking drown and die, or you're literally going to start doggy paddling, and eventually you learn how to swim, and you learn how to get back on land, and and it's the same thing in what we're doing is you're going to fail. Like, I just went through this, man. I joined an agency. Things were going well. They paid me more money than I've ever been paid in my life, and then it all collapsed on me. But I learned so much from it and was able to pivot instantly and get a job with another agency. So that was just from all these years of failure. I love failure. It sounds crazy, man. People tell me I'm crazy. I love it.
You don't take the shot, you don't even have a chance.
Everything that I've ever failed at, I've taken something from it and been able to apply it to something that was successful. Always. It's never failed me. Failure is something that I fully embrace. I love it. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's hard. It's depressing. It knocks the wind out of you. But how you react to failure is really a testament of whether you're going to be successful or not. Because
for sure.
I know you failed. I know
I almost failed
this.
this winter, man. I told you before we started this conversation. I mean, to almost go bankrupt, you know what I'm saying? Just from trying to open up a new place and maybe not doing my due diligence all the way, or just completely being in over my head for what it was really going to take.
Right.
But it's a learning lesson. I jumped in head first, and I didn't drown. I didn't die. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I mean, it was definitely a learning lesson. It's not going to change who I am as far as taking those risks and just jumping in head first, the next thing that I want to do. But I think there'll be a little more calculated jumps next time.
And that's the thing, man, is like all these people out here that are kind of watching you do that. That's the inspiring part. It's the part of watching you. And they don't always see your struggle. I know that. People say, man, I'm very open. Like if somebody says, "Hey, what's going on with you?" I'll tell them, like, "Man, I'm."
I always say, I'm not doing good right now.
I'm not doing good.
I'm not doing good right now. Yeah.
But there's some comfort in that. When I say there's comfort in that, and I've had this conversation even like Cameron. Cameron goes through ups and downs in life, and I've told him like, "Yo, you're always showing the good, man. People want to see the bad from you." I have rappers that I've worked with, and they're like, "I got the money phone, and I'm in the nice car," and I'm like, that's cool. There's people that buy into that, but there's also people out here that want to know that you've gone through the struggle that they've gone through, that you couldn't keep the lights on or you couldn't feed your kids. And so there's people who relate to it. Not everybody, man. There's people out here that want to escape that by thinking about how much money and how much jewelry and all those things. But at the end of the day,
we see it today now on Instagram. You have the hustle bros that give you all the fucking motivational shit with Interstellar playing in the background and the ice baths and all that bullshit. But it's fake, and that's the reason why I wanted to start this show is because I mean, I just can't relate to any of that
Right,
because
right.
I don't wake up at 3:00 in the morning. I don't go for 20-mile runs and take the ice
You're not
punches
David
and all that
Goggins
stuff. I'm
out
not.
here.
I
Yeah.
can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I want to sleep in and enjoy my life a little bit, and make my mistakes and learn from them and all that stuff. I don't have motivation every day. Sometimes I'll just
Right.
fucking lay there. If I have the opportunity to not do something that day, I
gonna
might
do it.
just lay around all fucking day and not do shit and
Yeah.
play Xbox. You know what I'm saying? Or play PlayStation.
It's crazy you say that because I got the Apple Vision Pro. That's what I've been doing. Like if I don't have it, I just lay in that thing, watch
Yeah.
TV, and just relax. Like it's reality, man. Like
Yeah.
I think so many people want to escape reality, right? They don't want to think about suffering. At the end of the day, I don't care who you are. We're all suffering in some way, whether that's from poverty or it's just from your life, or you hate your husband, or you got dealt a bad hand in life. We're all suffering.
No, but you got to take that and run with it. And
You
I feel
gotta-
like that's really what fuels, people. I mean, you said it in the beginning when we started talking on the show, about my brother. You know what I'm saying? I mean, when I lost him, it gave me better focus because previous to that, I did Is That Raw. I did the music video thing. I was doing like performance car stuff. I was bouncing around left and right,
Trying to
doing
just-
all sorts of things.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like going to Colorado, trying to learn about the weed game. Like you name it, I was
in it.
bouncing around, just trying to find my niche. You know what I'm saying? And when I lost my brother, it like gave me tunnel
gave you
vision.
this.
You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it was all coming from pain. Really, it was like, I
Yeah.
want to do something to in his memory. He was in the bars. He loved the bar. He loved the service industry. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he literally died in it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He was leaving work at 4:50 in the morning, and got hit by the wrong way driver and stuff, leaving a bar. You know what I'm saying? He was closing up for the night, and then everything happened. After that, I think that was just like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna be the best at it. I'm like beyond the best at it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I mean, I'm 3 years in it, and you heard Justin to hear somebody like Justin say it to where it's like, you sound like somebody who's been in it over 10. You know what I'm saying? More than that.
No, I
You know
watched
what
that
mean?
and was I remember when Justin started downtown when he had On the Rocks. I remember that, and I know how long he's been in it, and I know how much he's put into it.
The time
Not-
don't matter, but it's cool to.
But I think it does in this regard, is that you've only been 3 years in it, and I would put you not to create divisiveness,
No, of course
but
not, no.
I put you neck and neck with someone like him, and because exactly what you said, it's the focus, it's the whether you become the best or not, if you're pursuing that, fuck, that's how you become great. That's how you become great, and that's how you honor your brother. Like that being all over the place, and it's the same thing for me when I did music. When I first started to say, man, this is what I'm gonna do. My cousin died of a drug overdose, like a heroin overdose, and that I was selling dope. I was doing dumb shit when he passed away, and then that's when I was like, man, I can't live like this. Like I don't. That's what he's being remembered for, is dying of a drug overdose. I don't want to be that person. So I'm gonna take all this pain that I have from childhood and people dying and just even the stress of selling drugs. Like that shit, it's stressful.
Yeah, I mean, looking over your shoulder all the
Looking
time.
over your shoulder all the
Wondering
time,
if something's going to happen or
cops are
rob
gonna
you
get
or
me,
cops are
someone's
going to
gonna
get you.
rob-
Yeah.
So that stress made me say, no, I want to do this. And I really, really love making music. So I get to do something that I'm passionate about, but I want to be singularity where I'm just focused on this. So for that time in my life, I didn't do nothing else. I didn't really go out to the club unless I had to be there. I didn't go hang out with women. I just made music. I made as much music as I could. I wrote, I studied. I was centrally focused on just that task. What's interesting though is when I got to quote unquote the pinnacle of it, it left me empty, because it was like, okay, I did this. What's next? You know what I mean? And obviously I didn't have the career that took off, and maybe that would have changed. But when I got to that point of, and maybe I set myself up for failure in that way, it was I just wanted to get a record deal. That was the most important thing to me. And I think I left out, well, what happens when you get it? And I didn't do that part the way that I should have. And there was a long time I was jaded. I was like, man, fuck the music industry. Like, this shit sucked. It chewed me up, spit me out. I lost everything. And I never understood why. You know what I mean? I'd pray about it. I'd say, man, why is this happening to me? And then when I started to manage artists and I started to get back into the music business, and then I realized, like, oh, that's why. That was my path. My path wasn't to be the next, Eminem. My path was to be who I am right now. And I've totally embraced that and accepted it. And it's made me better, because I take all those challenges and all those failures, and they're really my success. They're really what fuels me to say, all right, let me try to get this right in another regard, in another way. Even if you build something and you sell it to someone else, there's some pride in that. I started that shit. being first to market is always a big thing, and you really were the first to market when it comes to a real, genuine food truck park with a bar, and the way that you set up this ecosystem. It's fucking brilliant. It's dope. But again, it's you taking pieces from things and building something special.
Trying to make it special, trying to make it better.
Special. And it's the same thing that I'm doing and what I'm doing. And, you know, I watch other guys in the community doing this. And I think that's why these conversations are important, is the dialogue of, it's not this hoorah bullshit. It's just like, I want to be able to look someone in the face and say, man, you're doing a great job. Or, yo, you're doing a great job, but you really could do this better.
It's the majority of my conversations with people that work around me, and it's been a love-hate thing. It's either they love me or they fucking hate me. You know what I'm saying? I got people around me that, you know, might not like me or whatever, because I never sugarcoat shit. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
If I see somebody not doing a good job at one of my parks, I'll call it out. And, you know, respectfully, like, direct, but very direct. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, man, like, stop doing that. You doing this.
I'm very direct with people.
The government don't give a fuck if you're just trying your best. If you're not paying your people right, like, stop fucking around with their money. You know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of problems that you deal with in this industry, especially with what I'm doing. It's where I'm housing 11 other businesses, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not like I'm dealing with, not to say equals like I'm above them or anything like that, but it's not like I'm dealing with people that are on the same level playing field that I've reached as far as like the things that we've and the things that we've done in business. A lot of them are starting out, and you know, they're gonna make mistakes along the way. I mean, I know that, and sometimes you just gotta let them make their mistakes. But you know, as somebody who's been through it, I'm sure you've done it, right? Where you'll give them a little bit of a heads up. It's like, hey, man, you need to watch out for this, and this. Like,
I just went through this. I'll tell you, it's funny. I went to the NFL Combine. And so, like, at the Combine, you know, we're dealing with all these different brands. And so Nike has a suite where they set up and they bring athletes and they bring all the managers and agents, and everybody goes in there. It's like a party. They have ex-players and they have music. And then Adidas has one. So when they go to these suites, they gift athletes a bunch of gear. They'll give them free, you know, shoes and free cleats, and because they want them wearing this stuff when they go to the Combine or whatever. And so there's a young marketer that I know that fairly successful. Like, he's had a couple big clients. He's out of California. He goes into the Adidas suite and they lace him up. And then he takes his guys. He has 3 or 4 guys, and he takes them to the Nike suite. But he has all the Adidas shit on him. And I just pulled him to the side. I said, hey, man, I'm just being real with you. This is probably not the best look, man. Don't walk into a Nike suite with your clients with all this free Adidas shit. Yeah. And he's like, well, why does that matter? I said, it matters to them.
Matters to Nike, and to the people there.
To the people there. And he was like, nah, man, they're not going to trip about that. I said, all right, man, I'm just letting you know. So I walk in. I'm talking to the head of Nike football, having this whole conversation. He walks in, and the 2 guys from Nike were like, you need to leave. And he's like, why don't you leave? He's like, bro, this is a Nike suite. Why do you have all this Adidas shit in here? Like, no, bro, we're showing off Nike to these athletes. Like, you're not going to come in here and just get a bunch of free shit and leave. Like, have enough wherewithal and common sense to go put the Adidas shit up before you walk in the Nike suite. And then as I'm walking, he's like, bro, I should have listened to you. I was like, yeah, you look like a jackass. So it's being direct with people. Sometimes it comes off as arrogant or you being an asshole, but truthfully, you're really looking out for them. You're really
for sure,
saying,
always.
And that gets lost in translation sometimes. Of like, you know, Ricky's an arrogant asshole. He thinks he knows more than everybody. Question thinks he knows it. Nah, man. But sometimes just, you know, let the gray in my beard tell you I've been around, and take the advice. You know what I mean? Those things, you know, people don't think about the small things because they just don't have the experience.
Yeah.
People like us do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, there's always the threat of us coming off as like old heads and we're just bitching to bitch. And I get that part, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know, I look at it just like my kids. My kids half the time are not going to listen to what I have to say. But if they listen to just a little bit of it, and, you know, maybe we make this a better place to operate in.
I think they will, man. I mean, you know, when I think back on this conversation right now, I mean, just to hear, you know, everything. When it comes down to it, when you boil down this episode, it's the importance really of marketing and building your relationships in your community. Marketing and building community. I mean, that's really all it is, man. You apply that to any business, to anything in life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I think you'll find, you know, success. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Like, you can be selling T-shirts. You can be making your own T-shirts. As long as you know, make a community, brand the hell out of it, market the hell out of it, you'll be all right. You're building a food truck, same thing. Like, you know, build a relationship with the community.
Yep.
You know, and then outside of that, I mean, obviously there's a million other things to talk about in marketing. I mean, you know, the importance of social media, reels, and you know, the whole nine, right? But, you know,
I think at its core, it starts with that. And you got to think of it like that. Like if you're trying to highlight a community or you're trying to tap into a community, obviously you need social media, you need content to pull people into your community. You're not going to just walk out on the corner and say, I have this special community, come join me.
A good, way to look at it also is like, think about big, like major brands like McDonald's and Starbucks. Back in the day, if you're watching TV, you'll probably see a McDonald's commercial. But when's the last time you saw a McDonald's reel? A sponsored McDonald's reel? Probably never.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, when's the last time you saw a Starbucks commercial on Instagram or Facebook? You don't really see it.
You don't see it.
They built the brand and they built the community, and that's all they need. It sells themselves.
They have a community, and what happens is now they're able to tap into people in the community to promote these brands without people realizing it.
Exactly.
So they'll get
Look
influencers.
at what's the purple dude's name in the McDonald's? The Grimace?
Yeah,
Grimace when they were doing the drink
Doing
thing
the
and
drink
stuff like
thing.
that. But that was all over social media.
All over social media.
But McDonald's has something to do with that
course,
somewhere. They
of course.
planted it somewhere, paid
No,
the
I
influencer,
work with a
all
brand.
that
I won't
stuff.
say who they are. I work with a brand right now. They're getting athletes to rock their brand, but they're not doing advertisement or doing anything. They're telling them, hey, go in the gym, work out. Just happen to be in our gear.
Yeah.
And they're talking about some song, but this is all strategic and put together, and it's an actual strategy. But to the buying public, it doesn't, and that's why it looks like a community thing, because it's like, oh shit, these people are working out, they're losing weight, they're sharing their stories, whatever, and they happen to be wearing this brand. But at the end of the day, it's the community aspect of it. Like I told you, I went and watched the Super Bowl at El Camino, but then I went is because my son, he loves being in that environment because he has social things where he doesn't really socialize with people, but he loves being around it and it makes him feel a little more comfortable. We go watch the game. He's watching the people get crazy about their teams. There's this excitement. It's outdoors. It's the big TV. It's, hey, I'm going to go get food from here. I'm going to go get food from here. Let me try this place. He runs into Mozzie. Mozzie just happened to show up and, was on it. All that stuff it's community. It's like, oh, I just saw my guy at El Camino and he was doing the same thing I was. And it's this environment where you feel like I'm part of the El Camino tribe. And so when people come to San Antonio and they say, yo, Q, take me somewhere, something San Antonio, I always call you. Hey, I'm gonna go to El Camino first.
I appreciate that.
But it's not generally just because like, yo, I want to support Ricky. Not to say that I don't.
Yeah.
It's I know when they go there, they get a real feel for what the city feels
That's the coolest
like.
thing to me to feel though, and it's like damn, like that's dope because like to hear that when we shot the Carla Hall thing for HBO, all the producers from LA and New York and all that stuff, like they were mind blown to be at El Camino.
Yes.
They were like, I'm like, you're from LA. What are you talking about? Like y'all got like everything. You know what I'm saying? Like what
They
do you
don't have-
do? Like
but
no, but we don't got nothing like this.
They don't have that.
Yeah.
And it's because it's community based.
Yeah.
It really is, bro. You walk down, you see people walking their dogs, it feels, I hate to say it, bro, it feels like almost like a high school cafeteria, but outside. Like
Shit
it
with
just-
the drama with some of the trucks sometimes.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. It feels
Yeah.
like that, but you're there and you're part of the environment. And so that's like when I bring people into the city. I had, I work with this agent, Tony Dutt, who's been, he was Sean Kemp's basketball agent, Joe Dumars, he's Karl Malone, he repped everybody. He's been all around the world. He's been in Germany, Spain, China, everywhere. When he came to San Antonio, I took him to El Camino. And I swear, I could call him right now. He's coming in Friday because we're going to Austin for the Spurs game. He was like, hey, Q, can you take me to that outdoor picnic place? That's all. He doesn't even know what it's called, but he's like, I want to go back there. It was amazing. He loved, he's 65 years old, but he loved it. So you're creating this thing that people connect to beyond just like, yo, it's a good place to go eat and drink. It feels like something.
That's dope. It was April, I think last year, and the CEO of HEB, what's his name?
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like the main dude.
The main guy.
Dude was eating food trucks, having a drink, dancing and stuff, like hanging out and stuff, like just vibing. I'm like, and somebody told me they ran out to be like, yo, like it's the CEO from HEB. I'm like, what? Like the billionaire dude? He was like, yeah, it's him. He's like, he's right there. And I'm like, oh shit, I went to go introduce myself and appreciate it, thank you for coming out and stuff like that. But he was chilling, man. Like he was like enjoying his
That's what I'm
time
saying.
and
You
had
feel
a
that
lobster roll in one hand and a beer in the other. Or margarita.
Because it's the tribe. You feel like you're part of the tribe, and that's for every business, bro. That's or business or social media or whatever you want to call it. You're creating a podcast. You want to create the community. You don't want people watching this that have no desire to be an entrepreneur. You want people who are invested, who believe in what you're doing, or even want to share something with you. There might be someone who watches this and says, I love what you're talking about. Did you ever think about this vantage point? And if you have that, you start to create a community of people who are sharing dialogue And it goes back to, man, if everyone kind of builds each other up, and there is still a spirit of competition. Like, yeah, bro, if I'm in the sports marketing business, there's guys I meet I love. One of my mentors, he's the best, bro. He's taught me everything about the business. But I promise you, on everything I love, I'm trying to kill him. I'm trying to outperform him in every way. But it's more out of a sense of pride and a sense of like, yo, you taught me so well, I want to be better than you. It's almost like in honor of what you've taught me. And it's the same thing, man. Like, if we can create that spirit, then all this other stuff from content. Like, I say this, and not just because he's in the room, but I feel like Skrill's doing the stuff he does here has set a standard for what this should feel like.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm here.
That's
it's like
right.
we've had this conversation over 2 years already, where I hit him up. I'm like, yo, man, I want to do this, and it was always we couldn't just like really link up and just make it happen. You know what I'm saying? But it was, you know, a couple months ago. I'm like, yo, man, I'm ready. Like, we need to get this started. Like, tell me what you want, and I'll do it. It was like, you know, and then he finally was like, yeah, let's get it going. But no, absolutely, I don't think there's anybody in the city doing production on this level.
Just
you know what I'm saying? Like, for the podcast and the way it's put together, everything.
But I'll say this. I hope, and this is not a knock on him in any way, I hope that there's someone watching it who says, yo, I want to make something better than that.
For sure.
Because if you raise the bar, I already know him, he's going to raise the bar. And then someone else is going to raise the bar. And then someone else is going to raise the bar. And what happens is, at that point, you start to create this avalanche of creativity and really, really dope shit. And then you establish a real community.
Man, without competition, I feel like you can never really, you never be hungrier. You know what I'm saying? You'll lose it eventually because there's no one else to take their lunch.
You won't hunger for more.
Yeah, you won't hunger for more. Yeah, exactly. But I'm not going to name no names or nothing like that because I think maybe they'll call me again one day. But a group of investors for a Riverwalk property. I designed the whole thing with their architects. They had a building plan for a rooftop bar, and that was it. They're like, we have this little piece of land over here, but I'm like, okay, what about this Riverwalk beach, right? Like, what about this, this, and this? And I'm like, all right, look, your MEP needs to do this. Electric utilities need to be here. But I gave them the whole blueprint from what I did at El Camino. I mean, their architects and engineers would have figured it out eventually, right?
Sure.
But all this excitement, oh, we love this idea. If you build this food truck park right here and you give me the rooftop bar, make it instead of 2 stories, make it 3 stories so the view is even better. But then on the bottom floor, I need a commissary kitchen so I can sublease that space out to not just those food trucks, but all the food trucks in the area. We can make this much money off of food truck revenue, this much money off of commissary revenue, and potentially this much money off of liquor, beer, wine from the rooftop deck. They loved it. They were sold on it. They changed all of their plans. Multi-million-dollar project, right? And then they cut me out. I'm like, I didn't get nothing on paper. I didn't get nothing on that. I just took a handshake. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna use you, and we're gonna like, cause I'm the food truck guy, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. I got it in the bag. They went and hired some dude from some, failed restaurant, and I'm like, I'm not even sweating it. I literally didn't lose no sleep about it. I was a little like, like motherfuckers, you know what I'm saying? But like, cause I gave like they didn't even have the idea to do a food truck park. It was just the rooftop bar. You know what I'm saying? But when I started talking revenues and all this other stuff, one of the old guys got money hungry, and he's like, well, why am I going to pay this? Why am I going to give this guy the opportunity just to lease the space from us and make all the money? How about we build it and then I cut him out, and I can just pay some GM that don't know shit fucking $75,000 a year, $65K a year, and then we can make all the money.
Right.
But I know deep in my soul that there ain't a motherfucker in this city that can do what I do when it comes to curating the food truck experience and the whole vibe of what El Camino and Bessemer is, you know what I'm saying? So maybe I'll still get that call back one day, like, hey, you know what? Maybe we want to work with you, Or
one day you'll be in a place where you don't even need them to invest in shit.
That's pretty much the motivation where I'm getting. That's where
I operate like that too, man. But I always say this about ideas. I've had ideas stolen from me. Like, I won't go into details, but I've had stuff that I conceptually was mine. The blueprint for it was mine. The idea, the execution, all of it was mine, and it was taken from me. Like, I don't own any of it. Same thing, didn't get paperwork, all that. But I take solace in every time I've had that happen to me, they always call back.
Yeah.
They always say, oh, yo, man, sorry it didn't work out, but we really need you. And I'm like, nah, man, like, you had the opportunity to do right by me, and you didn't. So my ideas now will go somewhere else. I can come up with 1 million of these things. And it's not toot my own horn or anything. It's just because I have ADHD and I sit and think about this shit all day long. So I'm not worried about ideas. The ideas for it, I know what I can do. I know what I can
Executing is a whole other thing.
It's the executing, right? And so I take a lot of pride in that I've had those people who have stolen ideas from me and ran with them And whether they had success or not, I've probably maybe one that's never came back to me, but almost all of them have come back in some regard or some way and said, "Yo, I really shouldn't have done that without you. And I get to choose at that point. Do I even need you now? You know, you needed me. I may not need you for this anymore. I may not need you to invest. I may not need you to." And it's the same thing with what you did, bro. Like, take pride in that, because I guarantee
you know, at the end of the day, when they open up and they find success, I'm gonna be happy knowing that my ideas
took your idea.
They took my ideas and ran with it and found success. And if they never call me back, cool. But if they ever did, my price goes up. You know what I'm saying? I probably wouldn't even say no. I'll just be like, okay, cool, but it's gonna be this.
It's gonna be this.
You know what I'm saying? But it definitely reignited my hunger for doing, you know, what I'm currently doing, but to do it better. I'm like, okay,
Right.
I look at El Camino, and then I started a crazy remodel, and nothing outrageous, just, you know, new lights, new paint, new everything, new vibe. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, you know, it made me realize, I was like, why am I doing something with somebody else or answering the phone to give these people all the gems and stuff like that, right? Like, give them all the knowledge that I have when I already have the best spots in town.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to double down on that. I'm going to make that look good. But then my next one, you know, whether it's with an investor or whether it's, you know, by myself, it's going to be like next level. Appreciate you coming out, man.
Man, I love coming out. I love talking about this stuff. I can ramble all day about it, but again, man, I appreciate you inviting me. I'm excited for what you're doing here, because I think it's needed.
Where can, I guess, aspiring athletes or, you know, college athletes that are looking for representation, you know, where can they find you at?
Best place to find me is probably either email me directly, so it's question@me.com, so just question@me.com, or Instagram at question210. So it's probably the best way to reach me now. I do have an actual site that's going up soon, but it's not ready yet. So until that's ready, that's the two best places to reach me.
Man, how'd you get question@me.com? Do you have question@gmail.com?
No, I don't.
That'd be a hard one to get.
I don't.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. It was dope. Probably my favorite one so far now, because, you know, I'm getting in the swing of this thing.
Yeah.
But
It's going to
good
get better and
conversation,
better, man. Yeah.
Well, with guests like you, man, it makes it easy. So I appreciate you. You're watching another episode of the Hunger for More podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at the Hunger for More Pod. Appreciate you.